The Burning Truth with Casey Hendrickson.
And good afternoon. Thank you for tuning in to The Burning Truth. I'm your host, Casey Hendrickson. It is Tuesday, which means we bring Pastor Lucas Miles onto the program to bring us a little bit closer to God, because let's be honest with you, I don't help you with that the rest of the week. Pastor Miles, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing great, Casey. Good to be on the program.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Thank you for the time. And I guess, well, okay, I thought something was real interesting. So Mike Pence, who has not had a very good relationship with Donald Trump since leaving the White House. Mike Pence has now urged the Senate Republicans to not confirm Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And we started the show talking about the whole Fruit Loop thing that happened with the New York Times over the last couple of days. But his position on this was that RFK had his abortion stance, and therefore he should not be head of HHS. When I talked about this yesterday, Pastor, was like, well, you know, we've got Roe out of the federal court, now goes to the state courts. RFK probably doesn't have a ton of influence there anymore. What would be the big issue with that if he did harbor that belief? Because he's supposed to be there to do other things. But I don't know. Am I missing something here?
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I mean, obviously, we look at this, and you have multiple former Democrats that are on kind of the Trump ticket that really, I mean, you can't even argue this. I mean, they helped him win the election, right? This is how he won, you know, both electoral college as well as the popular vote. Is I think that, you know, Elon moved the needle and RFK moved the needle, and, you know, even kind of the ancillary team members, we'll call them, kind of a Joe Rogan coming alongside of him. Like, these things definitely moved the needle for him. And you know, I am an abolitionist when it comes to abortion. I would be very fine with a national ban. I would have no problem with that. I don't see it even as a religious issue. I think just based upon the existing laws of our land, there's no logical reason why abortion should be allowed. I think that's very, very difficult, you know, for somebody on the other side to defend. You know, but I will say this kind of in defense of Trump is that, you know, although, you know, these people that he's kind of pushing forward, that, you know, they might not be aligned in every single area. I think when the voters voted for Donald Trump, they knew very well his intentions on putting these people on cabinets. Maybe not every one, but, you know, he was very open about how he wanted to use RFK. In rallies, he would say, look, he's going to help make America healthy again. We're just not going to let him touch the oil. You know, Robert, right. You don't get to touch the oil over here. We're not going to let you talk about fracking. You know, we're still going to drill, baby drill, you know. And so, like, he set parameters. And I think that, you know, it's right. People have a right to ask questions. They have a right to use their voice. They have a right to let people know what they think. Of course, Mike Pence has the right to kind of say what he wants to say. But I think that, you know, people knew what they were getting into when they voted for Donald Trump. And I don't think this is a surprise to a lot of Trump, you know, followers with this. And it's difficult. I mean, it's as a Hoosier, you know, I want to be, I mean, I do have a respect for Mike Pence in many areas, but I think that this is an area where it would be better if he did sit out, because I don't think he's helping his case. It's just continuing to reinforce what people have thought about him, that, you know, and I think it's becoming just kind of this resounding gong that's not really, you know, making any sort of actual change or you know, effect in things.
That's just it. It's like, if he's not going to have any effect on abortion, then what's the point of saying he shouldn't be confirmed? If he's going to be there to do a specific job, is he going to be good at that specific job? And if the abortion thing isn't relevant, it'd be like saying that RFK is, you know, maybe he's a war hawk in Ukraine and Trump isn't, then we shouldn't approve him just because of that. But he's going to HHS. Like, he's not going to have a big influence on this. And you're right. The two of them have been very, very public about their negotiation before RFK threw his endorsement behind and was, you know, going to come onto his cabinet, that they were going to have a specific sort of a working relationship. RFK knows his place, Trump knows his place, and that they were going to hash that stuff out privately it wasn't going to be a big battle and that they were going to have disagreements and that was going to be something that would come up. But HHS director is not going to have broad influence over abortion policy in the United States, particularly after the reversal of Roe. So I don't know. It just seemed like it was just another. I want to poke at Trump just for the sake of poking at Trump, and it just didn't seem. That's
what it felt. It's what it felt like, I think, to me and probably a lot of other people. And look, I mean, I have some dear friends that have been commenting about how in the past Elon has made statements about universal basic income and kind of his support of that. And so, there's people getting hurt. Well, I don't see that's what he's going to be involved in. I don't think he's going to be shaping, economic policy. I think he's going to be looking for ways for the government to cut costs and help get a smaller government. And that's what he's being commissioned to do. And I think as long as we have strong leadership, which I think that Trump is able to provide, and kind of keep people in these lanes, that, look, there's a place to play, for these individuals. And I think that this is one of the benefits about Trump. Love or hate other things about him, I do think he has the opportunity to be a little bit more of a centrist in certain areas, to draw people together who are not given to, huge extremes on either side, and to see kind of America rally around, some core values again. When we have, NFL players, both white and black, that are doing the Trump dance out on the field, that's a big change from what we saw, previously. And so, I think there's a lot of positive things. Doesn't mean we need to we always need to keep our eye on the government. Doesn't matter who's in there. But, I'm still very optimistic in terms of where we're headed.
So one interesting change with Congress coming up as Republicans do take over both houses is that a Sarah McBride will be the first transgender member of Congress. Well, this has led Representative Nancy Mace, Republican of South Carolina, to introduce a bill barring Sarah McBride from going into the women's restroom on Capitol Hill. For those of you who don't know, Nancy Mace is a sexual assault survivor. And so she's making this a very big issue. And this has led to a lot of people saying, no, this transgender person should be able to go into the women's restroom in Congress. And I feel like all over the years, Pastor, the federal government kind of avoided this because it really wasn't affecting them. Well, now it's affecting them, and suddenly they can't run and hide from this. This is the battle that parents have been having with schools and things like that all over the country for several years now. Well, now it's a battle that Congress has to deal with. How do you see this shaking out?
We just hosted Chloe Cole last night at our church.
I was so upset I was out of town.
From St. Mary's.
Yeah, I really wanted to be there.
And she was phenomenal. And if the audience is not familiar with Chloe, she's kind of gained national attention as a detransitioner, and shares her story really about how just as a young adolescent that she was unhappy with a lot of aspects of herself, and sought counsel with initially with her parents and teachers, and eventually a doctor that encouraged her towards transition, that her doctor did specifically. And this, just talks about the really the horrors that she went through on the other side of this. And again, this is an issue that, especially when it comes to minors, it should be black and white. And my hope is that President Trump will seek to really kind of follow the way that Indiana has gone and really led the nation in, and that is that this becomes something that is really banned for minors at minimum. When you start seeing this with adults, again, if an adult wants to kind of live in a fantasy land and take on some particular identity, I'm okay with them being free to do so long as that doesn't start affecting other people negatively. I know that if I had a wife that was a member of Congress and using a restroom and having another, male member of Congress that thought that they were a female using that bathroom, I wouldn't be very comfortable with that. And I don't think she would be very comfortable with that. And so, look, this is starting to kind of hit, I think, close to home for these individuals. I hope that, it causes them to deal, with this and address it. I think that certain members on the left are starting to recognize that some of these really radical far left policies that they have kind of, kind of died on the hill over, that really those were some of the things that caused people to turn away from them this election and vote for Donald Trump. Because, it's like, hey, I like certain principles on the left, but, this is kind of taken a little too far. And I think a lot of Americans are sensing that. So, look, as a Christian, of course, I have very strong feelings about this. I think it's I think it's wrong. But these are people who need help. They're not people that should be running our nation. And, unfortunately, we have, people, getting voted in, not necessarily on merit at times, but simply because it's some sort of virtue signaling, over the particular case. And I think that's a lot what happened in this instance.
And for those of you who also may not have seen this, but when they did the exit polling, it turns out that the trans issue was one of the top issues that people voted on, particularly people who did not support Trump previously. They had actually come out and supported him because of the radical trans agenda of the Democratic Party. And actually, one of Nancy Mace's more moderate Republican colleagues, who's unnamed in this Axios article, says, a presidential election may have actually been decided on this issue. And they're not entirely wrong based on the exit data. It's the number one social issue in the country that people voted on, not abortion, the trans issue. So it was the economy, it was the border, and then it was that. Those are the three issues that people voted on. So Nancy Mace, one, sexual assault survivor, she's right there. She's going to have to deal with this. She said, okay, point blank, let's get it out. Let's put all of the cards on the table, and starting to see who is going to back her, who isn't going to back her. Of course, the usual suspects are obviously opposed. But we'll see how this all shakes out. But at least Congress is forced to deal with the actual issue that parents have had to deal with for a number of years now without having any support or attention at all from the federal government. So that's nice to see.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be very telling on which direction they go. And look, we could make a strong case that it was this issue in particular that really sparked a lot of that grassroots MAGA support. Sure. With kind of what we would call the mama bear, a really, change that happened in this nation when this started, being revealed, what was happening in our schools and drag queen story times and this sort of stuff that really sparked a lot of that initial passion and excitement for change in this country. And so without a doubt, whether or not it was the top issue, I don't know, but it was certainly one of the most important issues for this election. And hopefully they do the right thing and continue to, push us back towards, a little bit more of a normal society here.
All right, Pastor Miles, how can people learn more about you and maybe run into future events like what happened with Chloe Cole yesterday?
Yeah, for sure. So come out to Influence Church. We are growing, and it's been so exciting lately. It's I think the last couple of weeks we've set new attendance records every week, and a lot of them say, "I heard you on Casey," and so that's always exciting. So come out to Influence Church, 10 o'clock Sunday mornings. You can go to influencechurch.com as well. And if you want to follow our events, of course, you can follow us on social media, Instagram, Facebook as well, Influence Church, and that's Influence with no I in the front. It's just capital N, and you can find us there or hit me up as Mr. Lucas Miles.
And get that app, too, because it has your sermons in it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, our app is phenomenal. So you can download that on the App Store under Influence Church as well, and you can keep up with announcements, news, past messages, all that. All
right. Pastor Miles, I do appreciate it. Thank you so much, man. Take care.
Thanks, Casey.
All right, bye. That was your Tuesday Tithe. The Pastor Lucas Miles. We got more coming up on The Burning Truth.
Podcasts by Federated Media.